Hi, Year 4. We're going to do a little bit of PSHCE today. And to start us off, we're going to have a look at a couple of pictures. I want you to think about how these characters might be feeling. We're focusing on this young boy here in the yellow t-shirt and this girl sat down here. Take a minute just to think about what those characters are feeling. What words would you use to describe that? Okay, hopefully you've got some ideas. The two words that we're going to be focusing on today are hopeful, and I think this little boy over here is feeling hopeful. He's got his fingers crossed, he's looking forward to something, hoping something's going to happen, and disappointed. So it might be that whatever's in this paper, maybe it's test results or something that they've had an exam, she looked a bit disappointed compared to the other two that are smiling. Hopeful and disappointed. Those are the two words we're really concentrating on today in this session. I'm going to read you a little story. It's called Hopeful, and then we're going to have a look at some questions about it afterwards. So here is the story. It was Joe's 9th birthday, and there was something he was hoping desperately for. It wasn't a present or a party. Joe wasn't bothered about parties, and he knew his mum didn't have much money for presents. Joe's hope was a very secret one that he had never shared with anyone, not even his mum. He had kept his hope hidden away since his 7th birthday, the day his dad had told him he was going away. He hadn't told Joe where he was going. All he'd said, in a kind of choked up voice, was, "You be a good lad for your mother, Joe, and I promise I'll be back in a couple of years." Joe knew, of course, that a couple was 2 years. So he'd figured out that if his dad had left on his 7th birthday, he'd be back on his 9th. That was the hope he had carried with him all that time. On the morning of his birthday, he'd had a card and a bit of money from his grandpa. Then his mum had said she was bringing him something home from work. His friends at school had given him the bumps, and his teacher had given him all the good jobs to do. But all day, while Joe pretended to be having a good time, he was hoping that his dad would appear in the classroom or the playground. When he got home after school, the house was empty. He kept looking out of the window and jumped every time a car drew up. At 6 o'clock, his mum came home. She brought him the new Arsenal strip. He knew she must have saved up hard to get it, and he tried really hard to look pleased, as if there wasn't something else in the world that he wanted a million times more. His mum made him chicken and chips, his favourite tea, and she brought him a cake with 9 candles. After tea, she said, "Why don't you put your new strip on and go over to the park with the lads?" But Joe said he'd rather stay in with her. What if his dad came home and he wasn't there? At 9 o'clock, his mum said that birthday or no birthday, it was bedtime. She gave him a hug. Joe's heart was heavy with bitter disappointment, and he had a lump in his throat that hurt. But he managed to hug his mum back and hold back his tears long enough to say to her, "Thanks for everything, Mum. It's been a really great birthday." So there's some questions there to really make you think about that story, about Joe's hope. Is it a good feeling, or were there other more difficult feelings mixed in with that feeling of hope? Do you think Joe should have shared his hope with his mum? Why do you think maybe he didn't? Why did Joe tell his mum it was a really great birthday? We know he was really disappointed. Do you think Joe was right to have pinned all his hope on just one thing happening on that day? If he told you about his hope as his friend, how would you have helped him? And what might Joe have missed out on because he'd clung to just that one hope for those 2 years? There's lots to really think about in that story. I think all of us can have that feeling sometimes that just everything is going wrong and we can feel a bit hopeless. And with the whole situation at the moment of COVID-19 I think that's probably even more so the case at the minute. We're not seeing our normal friends, we're not in a normal routine, and it can be tough for everybody. But what we're going to do today is create some really useful prompts that are going to help keep us thinking positively, helpfully, and hopeful. Now, these are going to be something perhaps you can bring into school in a couple of weeks, or you might want to put them somewhere in your bedroom. Just some positive thoughts for you to see. I thought you might like to start by thinking through some of these ideas. I mean, we can all have hopeless thoughts like, I can't do it, or why does this always happen to me? I'm just stupid. I can't cope. Those are our hopeless thoughts. But what I want you to think about is how can we make those more hopeful? It's okay, I can't do it. Hopeful? If I try a different way, then that might be a little bit more useful, a bit more positive. I'm just stupid. Well, it's realizing that, okay, maybe something is hard, but and then you come up with some strategies. Okay, so think about how could you make those hopeless thoughts more positive, more helpful. Maybe you can create something that's really eye-catching. Maybe you're going to come up with some sort of motto that we all can remember. I would like just for you to take a moment to really enjoy those positive thoughts and try not to feel hopeless, but hopeful. It is a strange time. It's really important that you talk about anything that you're worried about. And these just might help you think of developing a more positive attitude for these last couple of weeks, hopefully, of lockdown. I'll see you soon. Bye.